Welcome! Hey everybody, welcome behind the scenes, getting things set up here. Dropped a pen, that's pretty cool I guess. Yeah, we're gonna leave it there. Caught me, I even turned it on before I had the headphones on. So now we can see if we're hearing ourselves. There we go. Alright, we're gonna invite our next guest. As we always do. A little early today, too. A couple minutes early. Loving it. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the BTS. Welcome to the new show. Let's get all this set so that everything is good. I'm excited. As always, I love having guests on. I've been loving doing this podcast. I know if I don't pick up that pen, I'm going to need it. I'm back. It's kind of like that whole Murphy's Law thing, you know? If I did not pick that pen up, I'd be like, where's my pen? Look, we have an author today. Super excited. Hello, hello.
Hey!
Awesome. Give me like a little quick, like 1, 2, 3 ABC.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, A, B, C.
Alright, levels look good. And alright, if you don't have any other questions, video behind the scenes videos rolling, so we'll get to see all this bonus stuff. But yeah, we'll get going if you don't have any questions right now.
Nope, I think I'm good.
Cool. So, welcome to the show today. My guest today is, well, my first author, which is pretty cool. I feel like that's the new thing. I'm starting to have all these friends that are writing stories, which, again, the purpose of Kurzology is connection. And so them telling stories and writing them and getting it out to the public is awesome in my feelings here. We've been friends, I don't know how long. We met I'll let her kind of explain a couple things. But please welcome Miss Kate Garnes Castile.
Yes.
You're the first to have me confused as to what to call you, and I've known you for a while. And
if it makes you feel any better, I'm still confused as to what to call me. So, yeah, I just got married in May.
Congratulations.
Thank you. He's an amazing man, but I'm struggling with the whole name change thing because I've created a business based on my name.
Right.
Although Kate Castile, like, it's such a dope name.
Yeah, and it's so weird because being Chris Kurzer, like, to me, it's always been weird to have the, I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna take me at least a while to call you Castile if it's gonna be Kate Garnes for a while because.
I mean, I feel like I'll always be Kate Garnes.
Well,
it's kind of like our friend Katie Moffat was always Katie Moffat, even though she got married. So yeah,
it's that weird thing that you're not giving up yourself when you get married. You're just adding to, but if you're established with a brand or you're known as something or you're not comfortable, the last name tradition thing is weird. I think.
Yeah, for real. And plus with the idea of moving, it's like, okay, but wait, do I change my name before we move or after we, like, it's kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, but welcome to the show.
Thank
Kate,
you.
we'll make it simple and leave it as Kate then.
Perfect.
You are not only an author, and as for those that are just listening, I do a video here that you can catch on YouTube. It's the exact same podcast with a little extra here at the beginning and a little at the end. You can see here right next to me is Kate's book, Mixtape, How to Stop Listening to the Recordings of Your Past, which we'll have displayed here, so you can catch this anywhere you can find your favorite books. So please, I've read it twice now, and
oh wow,
Yeah, it's cool. I'm excited to have you on. But you're also a motivational speaker, which is kind of what led you to write the book. Am I correct?
Correct.
Awesome. What explain the world of getting up on stage and kind of bearing yourself, but also inspiring others.
Yeah. So I became a speaker I figured out that I wanted to be a speaker in 2016.
Okay.
And at that time, Chris, I think you and I met somewhere between 2011 and 2013. I think is somewhere in there. I think is when we met.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
I always make the comment with those that I'm either really close with or feel like I'm getting closer with. I can't ever pinpoint the time that I met those people.
Correct.
If I can pinpoint those times, I'm 9 out of 10 times I'm not friends with them anymore. And that's not like to say we just because I can tell you when we met we're not friends. It's just it seems like if it's that blurry like not trying to be friends, then we still are.
Yep, totally.
But that sounds 11 to 13, somewhere in there. It sounds about right.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you work for Disney, you meet people several times, and then finally, after the 6th time of working with them, you're like, okay, wait, what's your name?
Right.
Like, tell me your name again, and that's when you remember it.
Right.
So, I had worked for Disney from 2011 up through 2020, and in 2016, I was full-time with Disney. I had just gone through a horrible breakup, and I was lost. I was 28. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I ended up going to my 10-year high school reunion. And I was the only one there. I'm from Missouri. I felt like, I don't know if I was exactly the only, but I felt like the only one who was there that wasn't married, didn't have kids, wasn't in a quote-unquote real job, being a doctor or a teacher or a lawyer or anything like that. I was playing dress-up for a living full-time. And I remember just sitting and being so sad, and everybody was so happy, and I was trying to be happy, and I was excited to see all these people, but I was so sad, and I felt like I had failed. That was one of the first times in my life, or I guess one of the many times actually, that I just didn't feel like I could hack it, didn't feel like I could keep up with what society was telling me was correct. Right. And a girl walked up to me. Her name's Lacey Phillips. I'm still friends with her to this day. And she said, well, Kate, what's wrong? And I said, I failed. I didn't figure it out. How did I not figure it out? And turns out she was going through a divorce from an abusive husband, which was nobody knew. It was wild. Oh, wow. And she said, well, Kate, life doesn't always go the way we think it will. What do you want your life to look like? And what I call God, some people call the universe, some people call energy. There's a lot of different names. I call God, right. Whispered into my ear, you want to be a motivational speaker. And I had never said it out loud before. And at that point, I had a couple beers and I had nothing else to lose. And I said, I want to be a motivational speaker. And when I tell you, like this, there has not been another moment in my life like this. When I said those words out loud, I want to be a motivational speaker, I was instantly stone cold sober. All of the doubt and confusion in my brain was gone. It was like all the cloudiness was gone. And I knew with pinpoint accuracy, that is what I was put on this earth to do. Oh, wow. And so I got on a plane the next day to fly back to Orlando from Missouri, and I wrote a letter on the notes section of my phone that was basically saying, hey, I'm writing to you because you have gained what I view as success. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know this is what I was put on this earth to do. Do you have any advice? And I sent it to like Rob Lott. You know Rob Lott from Disney. He was one person that I sent it to. Anybody who I felt was living in the entertainment world, because that's the world we live in. Yeah. Anyone that was living in the entertainment world that had gained success. And of the 7 or 8 people that I sent to, about 4 or 5 responded and just said, immerse yourself. So I stopped binge watching Netflix. I got my hands on any podcasts, books, videos of any I didn't even know what I didn't know. If somebody had held a gun to my head and said, name 3 motivational speakers or you're dead, I would be very, very dead. Yeah. So I just immersed myself, asked all of the questions. I was not afraid to humble myself and say, I don't even know what I don't know. Can you teach me? What can I learn? Yeah. That kind of led to my coach, and 5 years later, I'm a full-time speaker. But I think your original question, sorry, I got off on a tangent.
No.
It's like I speak for a living.
It's an organic podcast. It goes where it needs to go.
But to answer your question, what is it like to get up and share your story and be vulnerable? It's intimidating. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It can be very, very intimidating. It doesn't help that I speak to teenagers who will let you know if they don't like you. Middle schoolers are actually worse about that. But so it can be very intimidating. But I cannot tell you how many times I go back to that feeling that I had when I said the words, I want to be a motivational speaker, and the conviction that I had. And I know I am doing what I was put on this earth to do. And someone needs my story.
Right.
Someone needs what I have walked through. Someone needs to hear it. And if I am speaking to 1,000 teenagers and only 2 of them or even 1 of them is changed or is moved to make better decisions or things like that, then I was successful.
And that's the one, yeah. I mean, and it's I have so much respect for you because there's such similarities, but there's such a difference between like acting. For me, I'll memorize a script or whatever, even if it's improv, it's still a part of me, but not all of me. Whereas you may have talking points, not necessarily a script, but you want to, not bore people for, 8 hours. You want to entertain and get the knowledge out there, but it's your life. It's not a character.
Yeah. It's truly my story. Yeah. And it's things that, like I talk about, I know I write about this in my book, but I talk about my dad, about my growing up with an alcoholic as a dad. And up until probably a year into speaking, I didn't talk about my father because my dad, like that was just something very personal. That was something kind of, if people found out that I was the daughter of an alcoholic dad, then I would be judged for his actions. Or then all of the horrible things that he said about me, somebody might say, oh yeah, he was right. So, and it wasn't, I was actually I was at Ocoee High School speaking in front of their leadership classes just to get practice, like just to do my talk and practice and get feedback. Okay. And I had a junior girl, I didn't talk about my dad in my talk. And I mentioned after my talk, I mentioned having a dad who was an alcoholic. And she raised her hand and she so bravely said, you have to talk about that. And I said, no, I don't talk about my dad. And she looked me in the eyes and she goes, you do now. And I was like, oh, no. So talking about things, like I usually need a day after my talk to kind of emotionally recuperate because you have to allow, even as an actor, I'm sure you completely understand, there are times in certain roles where you have to emotionally allow yourself to go there and to go to that place that may not be pretty or highlighted or filtered and you get it. I feel
like though, for me personally, I can't obviously speak about anybody else as an actor, but like mine is more the pre. Like I'm the type of actor that will really immerse myself beforehand. If it's stage, I try to do it within 30 minutes and just zone out in music, go off by myself and that sort of thing. I'll do all the company stuff and the hugs and the warm ups and stuff like that. But then I need at least 10, 15 minutes before just to throw on the headphones and do my thing. Yep. After the fact, I feel like I'm exhausted. Yep. Like the worst that I've ever been, I think was a show that Danelle came to see when I was in college, and she hated it because she hated me. She hated my character. But she had a hard time. I consider this doing a good job. It's not patting myself on the back, but I consider myself doing a really good job because she was mad at me. So she believed my character, who was an abusive husband, and it was a show called The School for Wives, so you kind of get your picture from there. But it's also exciting and enthralling because you need the time after. But how do you feel when it comes to what you just did, like you just threw out there?
All right, I'm gonna be really, really honest with you. Yeah. I wish that I could be like, oh my gosh, I feel so satisfied, and I come down and I'm like, oh man, I just changed lives. But being totally honest with you, I usually will get done and be like, oh, that wasn't very good, or oh God, what if no one wants to talk to me after my talk and no one actually liked it? What if my talk doesn't matter anymore? That tends to be afterwards, tends to be when the negative self-talk comes in and which is so funny because that's literally what I speak on is self-talk.
Right.
But that tends to be my, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I fix it? And I'm trying really hard to get better at that. It also tends to be a little bit of an emotional, I'm still learning how to come down from the adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
Because it is an adrenaline rush, with telling my story, getting these kids pumped up, and taking them on their own kind of emotional story and emotional roller coaster. So yeah, when I'm done, I try to spend time with the teens who want to talk. A lot of times they will tell me their stories because I'm a safe person. I was just in Arkansas, and I had a young man, a 16-year-old man, wait to talk to me until everyone was gone. And he flat out said to my face, I am telling you this because I know I will never see you again. You are safe to tell. And I mean, he shared with me some very heavy things going on in his life, to the point where like I was like, oh, do I need to report this? Right. So not only am I carrying my baggage of telling this story and going to these places, but then I am also listening to the stories that these teenagers, not even adults, teenagers, kids are coming up and telling me. It can be really hard. It can be a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we, you and I obviously are not, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 in our teens anymore. I mean, I'm only a couple years removed, but, it's one of those, it's one of those things that we all went through it. And all of our, like your book, it's mixtape. And I know the point of your book is kind of creating a new mixtape, like remixing almost. However, because our music, our stories are so different, I feel like there's comfort in finding even that one person that has something that's close to what you went through.
Absolutely.
Because even if in your case, you have an alcoholic father, somebody else has an alcoholic father, but it's not the same story. It's a different situation of how mentally or physically or emotionally abusive it was or wasn't, or and I think that's so important nowadays. We're getting better, I think, as a society, as not poo-pooing the mental health and mental awareness.
Yes.
And I think that's so important,
Yeah.
Because you've got such a story to tell. One of the biggest things from the book that I loved, because when I read books, especially, you're one of the first friend that I've read. And it's
Thank you.
So hard.
Honored.
You're welcome. It's very good, but it's hard. I think I found it difficult to read.
Yeah.
Because I know you.
Yeah.
I think it was more of, okay, I'm going to learn some stuff, but most authors, you just go, oh, this guy's good, this girl's not good, this girl is good, whereas I'm going, oh, it's Kate. I did shows with her at Disney, I worked with her, and like, wow, I didn't know that, or and that, I think that hits, like the story of you dancing, and tapping it, and constantly being, whether it was embarrassed or shy or timid, but going and in front of the class, and yep that's so
absolutely
big.
Yeah, it's putting your story onto paper, which is, this is actually has become a story that I tell in my talk. I was really proud to write the book, right? I had my keynote, my story, or my book is based off of my keynote. Okay. And as you know, every chapter of the book is a different recording that I have had in my life.
Right.
And I was so proud. Finally, I published it. I worked really hard. And about 3 days after I hit publish on my story, like I was now a published author, I get I get an email from Amazon that's like, did you know that you have some misspelled words in your book? To which I was like, no, Amazon, that's false. Like everybody under the sun edited this book.
Right.
I edited it, everyone, like false. And I get another email that's like, but like really, like you have some misspelled words. And so somewhere between my formatter and my editor, the formatter is the person who puts it into book form. Any words that had the letters A, M, and I consecutively, it just deleted those letters.
Oh, really?
So so the word pyramid became purred, and screaming became skirmin, and family became fly. It literally sounded like I wrote a book about a pet fly. It
My
was
flight
awful.
is
And like this thing that I was so proud of and was so excited about in the span of one email became a nightmare. Became a, oh my God, why did I ever think I should publish a book? No author in the history of authors has ever published a book with a spelling error. This
right.
is ridiculous. Like, so bad. So, but again, I had to go back to everything is solvable.
Right.
Yep, this sucks, and I feel like a dingus. And at one point, I poured a glass of wine and I sat down to just see how bad the damage was. Like I was like, I'm just gonna read the book.
Right.
I don't drink a lot, partly because I'm so little and I get hungover. It's not worth it. I finished the bottle of wine.
Oh wow!
By the time I finished the book, and I was just laughing at how bad these spelling errors were.
Oh,
So yeah, putting my story into paper form, even what I called the enemy, like even the enemy then was like, yo, like we're gonna mess stuff up for you. Right. But I now have sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of copies. Yeah. So it's helping someone somewhere. The spelling errors have been fixed, but it's a lot of times when you start to put good into the world, darkness doesn't like light, and so it will do what it has to do to
fight its
to try to silence it.
Yeah. That's the hardest part. It's and I love the fact of we met because we work for Disney and we were in entertainment, and that's a whole different podcast. But it's but the idea of support and the idea of like living what you're doing. So great, you decide to be this motivational speaker, and you have stories to tell, and you have a lot to go through for yourself. But you're doing it live, to have that one-on-one, almost improv, very organic discussion. But then you have the book, and you're doing, the things, everything matches. It's not just saying, oh, I'm a motivational speaker, like on the weekends or when I can do it. It's really helping, so many people. And probably, I'm going to say, you're not going to know all of them. You're not going to, someone's not going to be brave enough to come up and say, you've helped me, or 10 years ago, I read your book, and, so since you have all these stories, I guess the question is, do you get tired of telling the same things? Do you feel drained because here's another group, it's just like guests at Disney, they've never been here before, but...
I've never been asked that question. That's a really, really good question. I don't so much get tired of telling the stories. I'm also, and I'm sure you know this as an actor, I'm very much reading the audience. What's harder is that you will go from having a group, like I tend to speak for student council, state student council conferences across the nation. And at a student council conference, I mean, these kids are so welcoming, so loving that you could get up there and say the ABCs, and they would be like, those were the very best ABCs I've ever heard in my life. Like, can you just write the ABCs for me and then sign your name, because that will be life-changing for me. And then you get up in front of a group, like maybe an assembly at a high school, where there are kids who don't want to be there. Those are much harder. So it's not that I get tired of telling the stories. I just have to stay on my toes. I can't get comfortable. Because a story that works one place being told this certain way won't work the same being told this other place. I have to change my verbiage a lot. Like if I'm speaking, and this is just being very honest, if I'm speaking somewhere that tends to be more of a red state than a blue state, I will use, they get very uncomfortable if I use they, them pronouns for anyone. So I focus more on using she or he or whatever. Whereas if I'm speaking in a bluer state, they get very offended if you use she or he, and they prefer you to use non-binary pronouns. Gotcha. So it's more, I don't get tired telling the story. There are certain parts in my talk that evoke emotion from the audience, whether it's laughter, whether it's clapping, and that never gets old. And to be fair, I never do the same talk twice, meaning my talk is not scripted. So there's so many factors. If I get to my time and they're like, You actually only have 45 minutes instead of an hour. I'm doing a different, I'm cutting
Right.
stories.
There's adjustments, yeah.
Yeah, so it keeps me on my toes. It does get harder if I have to do a whole bunch back to back to back to back to back, which isn't normal. But I did a tour in Illinois nope, maybe, I don't even remember. Time has no meaning anymore.
Nope.
I did it at some point, sometime.
As soon as COVID left, we're like, what year is it?
Time has no meaning. Where I did 6 schools in 2 days. So I did 3 talks and then 3 talks, and that was really hard.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, because a lot of times I can reset and be like, okay, it's a new day. Whereas when you've done that, it's like, did I already tell this story? Where am I? What's my name? Like, so, but yeah, I don't, as of right now, having been a speaker for 18, 19, 20, 22, 6 years, but 2.5 of those were silenced because of COVID.
Right.
I haven't gotten to a place yet where I am burnt out from the stories I tell.
Did you find now, I mean, we kind of mentioned twice now COVID, did you find during that time that you were, I don't know, I kind of see you as a writer. I mean, you are a writer, but meaning in my world, like a movie writer, where you're writing these scripts kind of like just for your head to go give these talks. But did you find during COVID that you were able to write more or kind of get into your own head a little more, or was it more difficult because you were trying to deal with something you didn't know either?
Oh, it was awful. It was awful. Going through the pandemic was easily in the top 2 hardest things I've ever been through in my entire life. Because I had just hit my stride as a speaker, and I had
and now the carpet is being pulled out from underneath you.
Yeah, I had just done a huge talk in California, flew home to Orlando for 2 days, went up to Washington, and for some reason I checked my email. I don't usually ever check my email before I go on stage. And I checked my email, and I had an email that said, hey, we're so excited, or we're happy that you don't have to spend your birthday with 900 high schoolers. However, we're canceling. And that was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, and this was March 11th of 2020.
So is that kind of how you quote unquote found out about COVID?
Yes, my birthday is March 13th, and that's when the world shut down. That was when the world decided it was going to shut down.
Yeah.
And have you seen the movie Trolls?
I have.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's a part in the first Trolls movie where Princess Poppy loses all of her color when she gets real sad and she loses all of her color.
Right.
That is the only way that I was able to try to word how I felt in the time of COVID and quarantine, because I lost everything in the span of 2 weeks. And then I thought I couldn't lose anything anymore. And then I was laid off from Disney.
Oh.
And I mean, there's a live video somewhere on the interwebs on Facebook of me just crying and saying, I have lost every single aspect of my identity. I am no longer a mouse that hugs people. I am no longer a gladiator. I'm not a DJ. Like I'm not anything. Yeah. What am I? So I wish that I could say, oh my God, I had all of these great ideas. Like I had so much time to come up with so much content.
Right.
But at that point, the content that I was coming up with was sometimes just getting out of bed and taking a shower is a win.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so, you either realize it for different reasons, but at different points in life, but we are so focused on being defined as something, like you said, I'm not a DJ anymore, and I'm not, we have what's happening. But I think every day we kind of deal with that. Like, yes, I'm an actor, and that defines a lot of my life, just age-wise throughout all the years, but also what I do on a daily basis for auditions and castings. But it's still not me. It's still just a portion of me.
Correct.
I like to use the whole multi-hyphenated. I'm multi-hyphenated. I'm a husband, I'm an actor, I'm all these different things. Do you find that after you came out of that things changed, like you were talking or wanting to talk more about something than you didn't before COVID?
Good question. It's not it's not that something changed.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go through a period of, is my story even relevant anymore? Now
Okay.
that we have had this global trauma,
Right.
this like earth shaking, quite literally, trauma that we've all been through,
Right.
is self-talk doesn't even matter anymore. And walking through this was saying yes, deciding, yes, my talk still matters. Yes, my stories still matter. I think I'm a little bit more patient. Not that I've always been patient, but I think I'm a little bit more patient when it comes to teens and the way that they function, because most of them lost 2 years of social experience.
Yep.
When I think the first talk I did was at the Georgia State Conference, and I realized I couldn't stop moving because as soon as I stopped moving, they checked out. I could be
Okay.
saying all of the stuff, but they have been so used to, and it's not their fault. They've been so used to having a phone
Right.
that never stops moving and that is instant. If I stopped moving on the stage, their faces, they would just look. It was wild. That has gotten a little bit better, but I did add in some things to my talk about, let me rephrase. During the pandemic is one of the first times I ever really witnessed toxic positivity.
Oh, okay.
And that hit me hard. I had never really thought about toxic positivity before. I had never thought about the damage that can be done when trying to be too positive and trying to it's okay, everything's going to be fine, like we're all great. How can we make this work
Right.
for us and all this stuff. I was like, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We put the little check mark next to it.
Okay, perfect. But there are times when life is really shitty
Yeah.
and life is really hard, and no amount of green juice and positive affirmations, no amount is not going to make it any less shitty.
Right.
And that is what I have kind of honed in a little bit to with teens, is I wish I could tell you it gets better. It changes.
Yeah.
It gets different, but it doesn't get better. You just get more comfortable with yourself and comfortable with walking away from things.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't ever want to be, that was one big shift that I had, is I even stand on stage and I say, I will never be a speaker who comes up here and does toxic positivity, because sometimes life is really hard. What I am going to do is I'm going to give you little tiny steps on how to make it a little less hard.
Right.
But life is hard sometimes. So.
And that's what I love about you is it's that middle road, which I think, we always try to, every song and every lyric, poem and stuff tries to say, when you get to the fork, you got to pick. Well, sometimes you get to the fork in the road and you can just kind of keep going through the weeds.
Yeah.
Because like you said, that toxic positivity
Yeah.
will ruin you. I mean,
Yep.
as you spoke, things that are coming to mind are like comedians. Like the turning point for me was when we lost Robin Williams.
Yes.
You don't realize that, and it's not everybody. I'm just making a
Right.
general statement, but
Right.
not. Comedians are out there making people laugh, but if something is wrong inside, they may be covering something up. And the same goes for the other side of not positive but negative.
Right.
Okay, you're gonna have that glass of wine, that bottle of wine, those two bottles of wine, that bottle of Jack. That's hard for different reasons, but
Yeah.
you gotta find you find that middle road and just admit. And it's hard to swallow, but
Right.
admit you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad days. But what
Right.
kind of person do you want to be?
Right.
If you're sick and you're crabby, and that happens to everyone. But
Right.
as a whole, if somebody looks at you and says, "What kind of person am I? Am I positive or negative?" And if they kind of go, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, so you've gotten to the fork in the road. It's okay to wait a minute before you make the decision. It's okay to pull up a folding chair and say, I made it here. That's a win. I need to wait. I
Right.
need to hang on. I need to pray. I need to meditate, whatever. I need to have the glass of water, whatever it is. It's okay to have to take a minute.
Yeah,
And
grab
I
the
feel like a lot
binoculars
of
and look
times,
down each road and see what's down
Yes.
each road.
or you're right. You continue forward into the weeds and you take the road less traveled. It's I had, bless his heart, he was trying to be helpful, and I understand that. But I did have a speaker friend during the pandemic. He asked how I was, and unfortunately, I just, like, literally just gotten the Dear Valued Employee email telling me that I was being laid off from Disney.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not good. Like, this sucks. I'm not good. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not good. And he said something to the effect of, if you cannot see the content that is going to come out of this, then you're blind. And I don't curse at people. I don't yell at people. That's not who I am.
Yeah.
I walk away from a situation before I explode.
Right.
I also, when in writing, I become a PhD lawyer style. Like, that is how I write when I get mad. And I think I very, as politely in a PhD lawyer style could say, I said, you don't know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm going to need you to take all of the seats. Because I understand, I try to be understanding and said, I understand you're trying to help right now. I get that, and I thank you for that. But you are, like, the damage that you are causing by saying something like that, when I am sitting, I am being forced to go take one of the sides of the crossroad that I don't particularly want to take. And yeah, so I'm very big on being real. I don't ever want to get up in front of anybody. If you and I were having a cup of coffee, or if Danelle and I were somewhere, or if I'm in front of kids, I don't ever want someone to hear me speak and have it feel fake, or have it, I want it to feel real. I want to be honest. I mean, it's just, I love this podcast because you're talking about genuine connections. And you can't, the genuine connections happen when you let your guard down and you tell the truth and you are honest that everything isn't easy, everything isn't always okay, but I'm still going to sit here with you in that moment. We're going to sit here in the basement of rock bottom until we feel comfortable enough to get up onto our knees. And then we're going to sit here, we're going to kneel here in rock bottom until we can put one foot on the ground. And then we're going to stay in that position until we can help each other stand up. And then we're just going to stand for a while. We're not even going to try and walk. We're just going to stand together.
Yeah, and there's no time limit. I feel like today's society, we want instant gratification, we want instant results, we want things super fast, and things like that. It's true. I mean, you got to have those, the dichotomy of like acting. The hard part is I would love to be like you in the sense of being able to be the same person that tens of people see on TV, and people that see me in real life. But unfortunately, I'm scripted to be this crazy or this whatever, or goofy, or whatever the case may be. You have the advantage of, which is difficult, so don't get me wrong, but of being the same. And I think there's, as they say, you can't con a con, you can't lie the same way twice. Right. And so if you're telling the same stories and the same things are coming up, it's true. Yeah. You can say things to try to make yourself think it's true, but there's always going to be something in there that somebody went, wait a second, last time you said this, or, and I love that you're taking your personal stories, and that's got to be draining. That's got to be
very, yes.
Have you found yourself better? Have you found new things about yourself since speaking, since writing the book, and seeing it in front of yourself?
Yeah, for sure. When I first started speaking and writing the book, I was very lonely because, having worked at Disney, your social life is work. Right. Like, you are with your friends in the break rooms. You really only talk about work and gossip. Right. And then you go home and you have your glass or bottle of wine, and then you get up and you do it all again the next day. And that is what. So when I decided I wanted to go part-time at Disney and pursue something bigger, I was very misunderstood, and I know my friends love me, and I know that they want to support me, but they just could not understand. And I get it. Why would they? Not everybody was made to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody. There are some people who want to be a character at Disney, and that is their dream, and that's what they want to do. And by all means, we need both. We need people to do that. So I spent a long time. I can remember going into the Fantasmic break room, and I had my notebook where I was working on talk stuff, and somebody asked me, "What are you working on?" And I told them, and they were like, "Cool. So where are you cast for the summer?" And it was like I couldn't even. I can remember calling up my dear friend Gabe Burns and saying, I don't belong here anymore. And he was like, you're just realizing that? Like,
It's that title. It's that having that, you're supposed to be an actor. You're supposed to be a performer.
Yes.
You're supposed to be,
yes. So it's, I just can remember feeling so sad because it wasn't my friend's fault. It wasn't my fault. I just didn't feel understood.
Do you find that your friends what, if you don't mind me asking, are your friends different age than you? Like, meaning they're either within 1 or 2 years, so I call that the same, but if they're 5 or more years difference.
When I was at Disney, I was older than everyone. I'm 35 now.
Okay.
Am I 35 or 36? Yeah, I'm 35. Okay, sorry. It's fine. Anyway, it's fine. Everything's fine. So I'm 35, and when I started working at Disney when I was 24, and I was very clearly older than everyone, and that's fine. Which you get because I think you were also a little bit older than most people.
Yeah, I'm 44 now. Yeah.
Yeah. So then everybody was younger than me.
Okay.
Or roughly my age.
And do you find that that's difficult? Like, did you find that, like, I feel like a journalist for, like, political.
No, you're good.
Like, I have one question and it turns into 6.
No, it's fine.
So did you choose to pick 2 younger crowds? And B, do you find that it's difficult or that you feel sometimes preachy because they are younger? So it's a double-edged sword because when I was at Disney, that's kind of what we were spoon-fed. Unless you stay with Disney, I was, for the first year and a half, I mostly only did meet and greets before I learned Celebrate the Season and Day Parade and Fans and Lion King. So being in just meet and greets, it just happened to be with younger people. Okay.
And I wasn't as secure in myself, and I wasn't as, for lack of a better term, mature as I am now.
Okay.
So I felt safer being with younger people because they were just as insecure as I was.
Okay.
As I've gotten older, my friends are definitely older. I think, well, it's funny because my husband is 6.5 years younger than me. So, yeah, that's wild. But as a whole, I definitely am drawn to older crowds because they push me to be better. They push me to think differently. They challenge me to be a better person and to look for the good in people. And that, I think, comes with maturity and comes with knowing themselves. Yeah.
I can see that because we kind of, same thing. We went through the same thing. We were, grandma and grandpa's working at Disney and but I think the thing is hopefully I continue to not look my age, as I'm told.
Same.
People tell me that. That's just not what I think of myself, but that I look younger, but I definitely act younger. Yeah. And when you're surrounded by the younger, you kind of have a little more energy. You're not trying to keep up, but you're just like, you don't think about your back hurting and your knees hurting and stuff until you get home. But I ask only because... But then
you get home.
Yeah, then it's like, oh, where's the ice pack and the ice hot and the biofreeze and just let's take a bath in it. But I ask only because, getting into motivational speaking without getting into details of like, here's how you do it, because I don't know if there's a direct path. But did you choose to speak then to the younger crowd to be like,
oh, I see.
This is what,
Gotcha. Yeah. So... It's funny, I literally was just like, I hang out with older people, and now I'm about to say adults are terrifying.
Right.
Well, so I speak to teens. I have always been very, very passionate about teenagers. Mm-hmm. Being a teen, I was kind of middle of the road. I didn't get in trouble, but I was very insecure, partly because I was so small. I was really, really small. I always have been. Mm-hmm. And I felt like I always had to prove myself. And I always failed at proving myself somehow, or that's how it felt. So I've been a teen. I know how it feels to be a teen, even though being a teen in today's world is totally different than when we were in high school.
Oh, absolutely.
But I feel like I have a little bit of, for lack of a better term, clout with them. Because I've been there, I've made it. When it comes to adults, I'm still on the same playing field as they are.
Right.
And there is that ugly voice in my head that's like, why are they going to want to hear anything you have to say. Like, what are you going to say that's actually going to make their lives better?
It's
Whereas
easier to
with
relate
teens,
to younger.
yes. Yeah, I have the stories because I've been there. Whereas if I have to talk to, we'll say advisors, that would be more, if I have to talk to the teens advisors, I'm not in the classroom. I'm not on the front lines. You hand me your kids and they're bright and shiny for me, and then I give them back. I'm like a really cool aunt. Like, I give them back to you, and you have to deal with the behavioral issues, and you have to deal with their anxieties and all this stuff. So I just feel the most comfortable speaking in front of teens, and hopefully that will shift, and I can move much later. We're talking years and years and years from now. I can move into the corporate market to work with adults, but for now, being a teen is so, like, it was hard when we were in high school, but it's impossible now.
Yeah,
It's just wild.
Do you run into, or do you, since I'm assuming that you're in different groups and cliques, and I'm not just speaking Facebook, group type things, but but different groups, are you finding more motivational speakers? Since there is a difference between ages, there's 9 years-ish difference between you and me.
Right.
We didn't have people coming into school to be like, hey, life kind of sucks and I'm here to help. It was just, I don't know, quit crying in the corner and get up and, type of thing. So are you finding more speakers out there, more help, I guess?
Yeah. It's kind of a regional thing. There tend to be more, like the state of California has a very, very, very strong or ASB, which is Associated Student Body. They're like student council.
Okay.
It's really strong on the West Coast, whereas in some of the middle states, it's not as strong. I spoke to several thousand teenagers in California, and then I spoke to 100 in North Dakota. Same exact conference. So it's and there are speakers right now. There's definitely a big push for speakers of color, which is great. If I am going to lose a gig to anyone, please let it be a person of color, because they need to be represented.
Yeah.
A little bit of the LGBTQ, a little bit there, but it's more people of color.
Okay.
But it takes, much like acting, it takes a certain skill. It's not something that any single person could do, because you have to learn, not only, much like being an actor, especially a stage actor, not only are you going to a hard place emotionally, but you are reading the audience the entire time.
Right.
You are figuring out what works, what doesn't. Are they responding? Are they not responding? Is it hot in here? Is it cold in here? Like, is there feedback from the speakers if I'm speaking in a gym? Like, I had an announcement come over. I was speaking in a gym full of seniors, and an announcement came over. How do you react to situations like that? Some people would not be able to think that quickly on the fly.
Right.
But yeah, so anyway, back to your original question. Yes, there are speakers out there. They are much more prevalent than you think they are, but you just have to know where to find the good ones, if that makes sense.
Right. No, it makes total sense. I mean, I ask only because obviously, we don't have kids, and odds are life is not going to take us down that path. But so being in a school obviously is non-existent right now for me, and so I'm curious. I was curious just because having those offerings, and I agree with you. Not knowing the dynamics, I think it's awesome to have people of color, of different communities, to go through as well, to explain and be like, hey, whether I look like you or not, here's what I went through, or here's the deal.
Right.
But I also love, and I'm always intrigued, because that's what I love about acting, is that whole improv, I'll call it improv, where here I'm doing my thing, and here comes an announcement. Okay, well, you need to hear the announcement, and they just didn't turn off the speakers in here, okay. How do you laugh it off? How do you, that? I love that. And then reading the audience. You don't want them leaving hating life because you just dumped all of your crap on them. But you don't want them coming overly, what's the word I can't think right now, but falsely positive, because you just blew smoke all over them, every orifice there.
Right.
It's finding that balance. It's really, I think, like you're right, motivational speakers are audience readers. Just like performers and musicians and actors, and I love that. I love how you can combine all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I
and
can talk to you for
it
hours.
definitely adds a level of it being me. If they don't like how you talked about Danelle watching you in that role, and she was like, "Well, I didn't like it because you were mean." Casey has this uncanny way of always playing a villain, and it's wild. But and I don't like it either. Like I don't like seeing my boyfriend or my husband be rude or angry or whatever. What's hard for me is that if these students don't like my talk, they don't like me. Like they don't like me. These are my words. So that you also have to find the speaker that's right for your school. There are certain schools I would not, as much as I would love the money, I would not be the right speaker to go in. And there are certain schools that my friend Dr. Layman Hicks, who lives out in Tampa, amazing black man, amazing speaker. There are certain schools he would not be a good fit for. Gotcha. So it's you have to know your strengths as well.
How do you get over that fact of, you walk out and you don't have a crowd or even one person coming up to you to thank you. You walk out, you did your thing. How do you personally get over that? Like, did I touch somebody or?
Yeah. First I go to my husband and I say, I can still do this, right? And he's like, yes, you can still do this. I don't suck at this, right? No, you don't suck at this. Because I know that he'll tell me if it's like, your time has passed, which he'll never say that, but still.
Right.
I sometimes will go back and look at the messages that I have from kids who were touched, students who it did impact. If I'm having a really rough day, I'll go back and reread those. And I also, this has been something, because I am a notorious people pleaser. I just have to remind myself, one, I am not for everybody. My story is not for everybody. I am a very energetic, very joyful person. And that is not for everyone.
Yeah.
I mean, I was bullied relentlessly in the Voyage of the Little Mermaid break room at Disney World because people did not like joy. They did not like joy. They did not want joyful people around. I'm not for everybody.
Yeah.
So I have to remember that I'm not for everybody, but I guarantee there was at least one person in there who was going to think differently about their lives, and that is what I have to lean on.
Right. Yep. It's important. It's not so I would say, looking in from the outside, that it's 50-50 about you and about them. It's a matter you're there to do things for them, but you're also doing things for yourself. If you're hearing yourself say these things or you're making note, then it helps make you a better person too, while trying to help them be better people. Yep. Which is cool. Which brings us to that's the connection with you and others. But let's connect to more of Kate herself. So Kurzology has this thing I created. I go off of James Lipton, if you know who he is, the actor studio. He used to ask 10 questions of every guest, and it was like, what's your favorite word? What's your least favorite word? What's your
I'm so excited.
Favorite noise? I'm so excited. So I developed these tales, right? So tales, Tales, and so I have 5 questions of that. The first one being T. What is a test? One of the biggest, because I'm sure there's a couple. What is one of the biggest tests you have had in life?
So I. Well, 2 things. I was born with club feet, which is where your feet are turned in.
Okay.
And I was in casts for the first 10 months of my life, and then I had to have surgery on my feet as a baby to correct the club feet, because the cast didn't work. And so I physically, it's always been hard for me to keep up with normal sized kids. Now, luckily, I'm a really small person, so my little tiny feet, I wear a size 5 or a 3.5 in kids. It doesn't look abnormal, but I always struggled to keep up. I struggled physically, with athletics, or oh my God, I hated the days in gym class when it was like, we're going to do time trials and we're going to have to climb the rope. And I was like, I can hang from I'm a great hanger from the rope. I cannot climb the rope. I can sit at the bottom of the rope and just kind of move.
Right.
So finally finally realizing that it wasn't my fault that I couldn't keep up, because I always thought, well, what's wrong with me? Why can't I run the mile as fast as these other kids? Why do I always stay the person who's it in tag because I can't catch anybody?
Right.
Why do I always get picked last when playing soccer or dodgeball or anything? That was always hard for me.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually one of the first times I've ever actually admitted that out loud. That was always something that I hated, because I just never felt like I could keep up. So I felt like I had to compensate with being energetic or being funny, because
Create a distraction.
I couldn't hang otherwise.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one. And then the other, I didn't know until just a couple years ago when I was in the 3rd grade. My teacher wanted to have me tested for ADD. And my mom said no, because at that time, this was in the late 90s, at that time, if you were labeled with ADD, ADHD, anything like that, you were automatically labeled the bad kid. It didn't have anything, it wasn't true, but you were automatically labeled a problem child. And so my mom said, absolutely not. Well, my teacher came to my mom later, about a semester later, and said, you made the right decision. I'm glad we didn't have her tested. She doesn't have ADD. Katie just learns everything a beat slower than everyone else. Oh. And my mom never told me until just a couple of years ago, when she was like, well, yeah, this happened. And as soon as my mom told me that it made me make sense. It made why I have to talk in circles make sense. It made why I repeat myself make sense, because I don't get it. Somebody, like, you could be like, Kate, the leave recording button on this podcast is black. And I would say, it's not brown. And you'd say, no, it's black. And I'd say, but what about on Tuesdays and bank holidays? You'd say, it's still black. Mm-hmm. And I would go, it's not an elephant. And you'd say, no, Kate, this color is black. And then I'd go, oh my God, the color is black. That is how my brain works.
Okay.
Is it has to get there itself. And so I always struggled in school, because I didn't learn things as fast as the other kids did. So... Gotcha. Yeah, that was testing for me.
but the point being, you still learned it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Yep. End result was there. Was
there.
Yeah. What about an adventure? What's one of the biggest adventures that you've had so far in life?
Moving to Disney without knowing anyone. Ooh. To be a character performer. Yeah, that was very scary.
Did you come by yourself? You said you met Casey.
I did a college program, but I literally knew no one. I knew no one, and that was very, very, very scary. Oh, and then just to stay, I just stayed. I mean, I finished school, but I stayed. So that was definitely one. I had a very rebellious 24 hours in college where I went skydiving, and then I got a tattoo.
Ooh.
That was probably the most rebellious 24 hours I've ever had, ever.
That definitely peaks there in adventure, yeah.
Yeah, adventures. Is it weird that I'm a homebody? I'm a homebody, so no. I don't like go a lot of crazy places. I get very afraid to leave the United States, because I figure somehow I'm going to offend someone on accident, and then I'm going to get sold into like sex trafficking.
Return, yeah.
Yeah, or like I'm going to end up in a Russian prison for the rest of my life because I like asked someone for change or something. I don't know. So yeah. Probably moving to Orlando. Yeah, it's probably one of the biggest adventures.
That's pretty big. Me. Pretty big.
Yep.
You do things every day, and I'm sure you learn things every day. But what's an important lesson that you've learned?
You are allowed to say no.
No
is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
You are allowed to walk away from people who are no longer serving you. And by serving you, I don't mean like a servant. I mean people who aren't bringing good into your life.
Right.
You are allowed to walk away, and you don't owe them an explanation. You don't owe... You have to do what is right for your heart, because no one else is going to.
Yeah,
you have to look out for yourself. That doesn't mean you get to be a jerk. That doesn't mean you get to be super selfish. That doesn't mean that you get to be a condescending asshole. But you are allowed to put yourself first, and and you are allowed to look out for yourself. But yeah, big lesson is you are allowed to say no, and you don't owe anyone an explanation.
Yeah, that one hits home with the whole people in life. I mean, I learned the real meaning of forgiveness is not for the other person. It's not giving them you're not brushing off what they did. Forgiveness is for you. Forgiveness is
Someone said one time, holding on to anger is like drinking a poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've held on to that. It's forgiveness isn't for them. Forgiveness is for you. And just because you forgive doesn't mean that you have to go back into the lion's den.
Correct.
Jesus said, turn the other cheek. He didn't say stand there and let them beat the shit out of you.
Right.
Like,
right. Yep.
it's not you. Yeah.
What so now for like the last two are kind of fun. So for E, it's entertainment, right? So it's the department we lived in for years. How we met each other, all this sort of stuff. But all of that sort of stuff, it could be this, but all of that aside, what is something that entertains Kate Garnes? What do you find fun?
I love live music. I love live jazz music. I love live music. I love finding cute little hole-in-the-wall coffee shops or bars, just something off the beaten path. I am very, very, very good at watching trash television. Like, very good at it. Like, really, really good at it.
It's a skill.
Yeah, it really is. And I'm not a foodie, but I really love good food.
Okay.
Like, Casey and I are also big board game people.
Oh, okay.
We love playing games. We love playing card games, board games, just anything to get us off our phones and talking with people. We have some friends, and hopefully you and Donnell will become this when we move up to Atlanta. Friends that we just get together and play board games with.
Oh yeah. Donnell's not as big on games as me, and I definitely am not in anything specifically. And there's quite a few I'd like to try. Like I've never, this may be, a sin in your world, but like I've never played like Dungeons and Dragons or things like that. I've done the Monopolies and Chutes and Ladders and Uno and Yahtzee. I love Yahtzee. But I agree with you on the whole putting the phone down. And like we were talking earlier about just the society that we're in and differences of growing up. Since being here in Georgia, holy cow! Like we will almost not yell at each other. We never raise our voices to each other, but we kind of like give each other like you're mindlessly scrolling again. Oh okay. Put your phone down. Ezio is the best at that because he'll just sit in front of you and look at you. I'm like, what you want, buddy? And he'll just look at you. You put your phone down, he stands up, he wags.
I'm sorry, is your dog named after the character from Assassin's Creed?
Yes. For those on the video, I'll show the tattoo that is on my forearm is the Assassin's Creed logo. Yeah.
I'm currently playing, I guess that's another thing I do. I play video games. I am currently playing through Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Ooh, one of my favorites. That and Black Flag is probably my favorites.
Really? More than Brotherhood?
Brotherhood was fun, but it was short. I mean, I loved it. See, I kind of started backwards. I started with 2. So I started with Ezio, and I'm like, this game is amazing. So I went back and played 1 with Altair. Then I just kept buying them every time they come out. So I'm already pre-ordered for Mirage, and I'm struggling through Valhalla right now because it's just so big. There's so many, and I'm a main quest person, so.
I am a side quest girl. Give me all of the chests to open. Make me go and save this person from this gang of thieves. Yep. Like, I have to beat the game 100%.
Oh, see, I can't. I'm too. I laugh because I'm going to steal this from a friend who's no longer with us. Kenny Rogers used to say that he was compulsively obsessive.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just because I heard him say it so many times that I adopted it myself, but I'm the same way where I'm not obsessively compulsive, but I'm compulsive. Oh, I got to do this. But if I try to focus too much on all of it, it's kind of like, then I lose the joy for me. Yep, so I just want to know the story. Oh, your brother's sister. Oh, you're this. Oh, you're supposed to, this is where you came from. And this is how the animus works. So that's where I'm starting with Valhalla because there's just so much to do. So if you're into all that, be ready because it is big. Very big.
So excited. So excited.
Yes. But finally for Tails, the S. Success. Kind of, a political reporter question of 2 parts. What is your definition of success? and how have you achieved it so far?
What a great question. Success to me personally is doing what you love, being paid to do what you love, and being content in life. Back pre-COVID, I was very on. I don't know if you know who Rachel Hollis is, but she was an entrepreneur. She had a big business conference, and I went and I was like, I'm gonna make six figures, and I'm gonna do all this stuff, and I'm gonna be the number one speaker in the nation. It's gonna be awesome, and it was just hustle, 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 hustle. Mm-hmm. And I love hustle. Like I enjoy the hustle, but post COVID, I want to be financially free. Mm-hmm. I want to be joyful in my life. I want it to be filled with joy. Not happiness and joy are two very different things. Happiness is kind of fleeting. Joy, I feel like, comes from within. And so to me, if I have found success, do I have a happy, healthy marriage or relationships in my life? And if not, are we taking the steps to get there? Yes. Am I providing for my family? Am I financially free? Or is my family financially free? Yes. Am I doing what I love to do? Do I dread going into work? Do I dread having to get on another plane to go speak to some teenagers? Never. Right. That is the one thing I can remember dreading having to go into a shift at Voyage of the Little Mermaid, or dreading having to do day parade in August when it's 100 million degrees outside and you literally just die. Right. But I don't ever dread getting on a plane to go change lives.
Before speaking in front of people?
Nervous isn't the right word. Yes, it's not nervous, it's excitement. Okay. I trust in the fact that I have put things in place and done the things that need to be done to be successful. I have rehearsed, I have tweaked my talk, I have worked on things. I force myself to trust in myself and to trust the process. Right. So I know my talk is good. I more get nervous / excited for, what if this is a hard crowd? What if they talk the whole time, which doesn't happen very often? Or that's more what I get nervous for. But I trust in the fact that I was given this story on purpose. I was given this dream on purpose. I have to trust that I'm here for a reason. Right. So that helps me not be quote unquote nervous, if you will. Okay. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And so, it seems like you've redefined your definition of success because of,
very much so.
of growing and learning and maturing, and then have achieved it. And it's never anything that's ever complete, because you'll revamp or change. But that's the way. So how do people get in contact with you, or if a school, if there's a principal or an advisor watching or listening to this, or saw your thing, like, hey, I'm really interested, what's the best way to book Kate?
Yeah. So I'm on all social media platforms at Kate Garnes Live, KateGarnesLive. You can visit my website, www.kategarnes.com, or shoot me an email, kate@kategarnes.com. Can you see why changing my name would be difficult?
Yes, I do, and I agree. I mean, I'm torn. I'm being completely honest. I don't think we talked about this yet, prior or not, but I'm torn because I'm traditionalist, just the way I grew up. When you marry the girl, she takes your name. Right. That's just a thing. I used to get mad at people, or not mad, but just bothered by people that would hyphenate. And I'm like, really? Mm-hmm. Are you not fully committed to the marriage? Because this is what we do here in America. And that sounds terrible. I don't mean it the way it sounds.
I got you.
But then I started learning, if you were to say, even Angelina Jolie, if she were to take Angelina Pitt, that sounds weird. Right. She was known, but prior. Or even if you change people's names. Do you know who Mike Fox is? He was great in Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. No, you have to say Michael J. Fox. Yep. Yep. So I kind of get it. And I really, really realized it once we came from Disney, because everybody knew Danelle as Danelle Kurzer. Yep. And when she would tell her maiden name, which is Mooha, Mooha, laughing cow. See? They're like, really? Oh, that would have been fun to keep. But they don't, all her friends from college call her Mooha. Yeah. And so it's that I saw it for the first time in my personal life of, okay, I get it. So now I'm kind of warmed up to, yeah, I kind of, it rolls off the tongue. I knew you, Kate Garnes. No
I mean,
offense to Casey at all. He steals a
what I'm
great name.
probably going to do is keep, because my S corp is under Kate Garnes, my branding is all under Kate Garnes. I'm probably going to keep Kate Garnes
Mm-hmm.
as my professional name, as
Mm-hmm.
like almost like a stage name,
Right.
and then have Kate Castile as my personal name, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I
no,
think
it
is
totally
what.
does. But
So.
whatever you call her, this is her book, Mixtape. It is under Kate Garnes. As
Yes.
you can see here, I love it. I think it's awesome. Like I said,
I'm so glad to hear that.
I've read it. I love the fact of seeing people that I know. I don't know. It sounds childish, but like grow up. Not grow up, but grow up and kind of do the whole adult thing.
Yeah.
And I do.
Yep.
Everybody really needs to get this. It's personal. Some of the things that she talked about, as she mentioned today, are in here. More details of the stories of her of dancing and tapping and the struggles she went through with her feet and realizations and her father and all these things. So more details. Please check it out. Kate, thank you so much for your valuable time.
You are so welcome. Anything for you, my friend.
Thank you so much. We look so much forward to seeing you soon,
Yes.
to visiting soon, to possibly make a move. And
We're coming. It's
that
going to happen sooner than you think.
that totally excites us. So thank you again. I do value our treasure our friendship and hope to see you soon. Everybody out there, please check Kate's stuff out online, all the social media. Check out her book Mixtape, where you find all of your favorite books. And continue to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I will see you on the next episode. Yay!